talking about Hollywood movies, there are a few directors you simply can't avoid. Among them, Quentin Tarantino is definitely the most mischievous, but also one of the most essential to talk about. His signature work, Pulp Fiction, overturned traditional structure, interweaving 3 dark crime stories into a looping narrative. In 1994, he won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and reshaped the entire wave of independent cinema. Don't just watch for fun, look for the craft behind it. Welcome to Movie Enlightenment. Pulp Fiction, literally cheap fiction, was a popular form of mass-market literature in the early 20th century. These stories were written to be sensational, gritty, and widely accessible, and they were printed on low-quality wood pulp paper, which is exactly how the genre got its name. These cheap magazines typically featured thrilling, fast-paced tales, ranging from crime and westerns to science fiction and horror. They were famous for their bold, eye-catching cover art, and often delved into themes that were considered taboo or sensational at the time. The film opens with a prologue, starting with a pair of lovers turned robbers chatting casually in a diner. What they're discussing is where their next robbery should be. Their conversation goes on for more than 4 minutes, and in the end, they decide they might as well rob the very place they're sitting in.
This place? A coffee shop.
What's wrong with that? Nobody ever robs restaurants. Why not? Bars, liquor stores, gas stations. You get your head blown off sticking at one of them. Restaurants, on the other hand, you catch with their pants down. They're not expecting to get robbed. Not as expecting anyway.
There are 2 details worth noting here. First, Pumpkin suddenly shouts, "Garçon, coffee!" Second, Honey Bunny says, "I bet nobody in a place like this would play hero." This moment is designed with a very specific purpose, which will come back later.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
The prologue ends. Now we move into the second segment. Vincent and Jules are chatting away in the car. This kind of talkative, rambling dialogue is one of Tarantino's trademarks. They're talking about Vincent's experiences in the Netherlands, which in fact come from Tarantino's own time living there. He wrote this film while staying in Holland. The two go on about weed, beer, hamburgers, and all sorts of things. They also talk about McDonald's Quarter Pounder with cheese. Thanks to the metric system, it's called a Royale with cheese in France. They joke about the little differences between European McDonald's and the American ones. After that, once they arrive at their destination, they begin assembling their guns. It turns out they're hitmen, getting ready for a job. On their way upstairs, their nonsense chatter still hasn't stopped. They go on about the rules of foot massages. They mention how the mob boss, Marcellus, once threw a man off a balcony, leaving him crippled, just because he gave Marcellus's wife a foot massage. Here, Jules is using the story as a warning, constantly reminding Vincent not to get involved with the boss's woman. Mid-conversation, they arrive at the door of their target's apartment, ready to get to work. But since they're a bit early, they step aside and finish their previous topic before proceeding. This is classic Tarantino absurd, casual, and hilariously offbeat. Following Jules and Vincent into the apartment, we see them in their iconic black suits, white shirts, and black ties. Their expressions are relaxed, looking nothing like 2 men who are here to kill someone. Jules takes control of the conversation, speaking in a relaxed, almost teasing tone. He questions Brett about Marcellus Wallace's briefcase, all while casually eating Brett's hamburger and finishing off his Sprite. Notice this moment, Jules' expression begins to shift. His eyes turn sharp and menacing. Under his questioning, Vincent quickly finds the briefcase. When he opens it, a golden glow bursts out from inside. Jules ends the slaughter with a recitation from the Bible.
"And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee."
In the film's third segment, the washed-up boxer Butch is in a bar, negotiating with mob boss Marcellus about throwing a fight. The lighting in this dialogue scene is hazy and ambiguous, hinting at the strange, surreal journey that awaits the two later on. While they're talking, Vincent and Jules arrive at the bar. Notice how the two of them are suddenly wearing different clothes, a subtle hint that they too have just been through some outrageous ordeal. Butch walks up to the bar and trades a "What are you looking at?" with Vincent basically a little stare down and trash talk. This moment plants the seed for the twist their fates will take later on. The fourth segment is about Vincent and Marcellus's wife, Mia. Before heading out, Vincent drops by his dealer's place and picks up some of the strongest stuff he can get. He shoots up right there on the spot, then drives to Mia's house. His job for the night is to keep the boss's wife company. He arrives at the place. There's a tempting little note left at the door. Vincent pushes the door open and walks in, but Mia doesn't show up right away in this scene. Tarantino teases the audience with a few seductive shots her mouth, her feet, building up the anticipation. The two of them head out for dinner together. They drive to a retro, cosplay-themed restaurant. Vincent's not really into it and wants to go somewhere else. Here, Mia draws an imaginary square in the air with her finger. That dotted square is a common gag from 60 Seconds cartoons. It means square, as in someone boring or old-fashioned. In other words, she's calling Vincent a total old-timer. Then they head into the restaurant. They sit down to eat at a table that's actually a modified Chrysler car. Inside the restaurant, all the servers are dressed up as the biggest stars of that era: Zorro, Marilyn Monroe, Ricky Nelson, James Dean, and so on. Since the two barely know each other, their conversation gets awkward for a moment. Mia heads to the bathroom to do a hit of coke. She comes back looking instantly recharged, and suddenly she won't stop talking. Right then, the restaurant kicks off a twist contest. Mia gets excited and drags Vincent up on stage with her. Their dance is set to a classic retro track, and it's become iconic ever since. Chuck Berry's You Never Can Tell gives the whole scene a strong vintage vibe. Their dance moves aren't exactly professional, but they're so natural and full of charm that the moment easily earned its place in film history.
It was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished them well. You could see that Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. And now the young monsieur and madame have rung the chapel bell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell.
No surprise, they end up winning the trophy. Back at the house, the two are still in a good mood, and their relationship gets a little closer. You can see their eyes getting a little too flirty. Vincent realizes things are about to get out of hand. After all, she's the boss's wife. He runs into the bathroom to get his head straight, and in this movie, every time Vincent walks into a bathroom, something big is guaranteed to happen. Sure enough, when he comes out of the bathroom, Mia is already foaming at the mouth, barely hanging on. She accidentally took some of the high-grade stuff Vincent had in his pocket. Vincent is terrified, completely freaking out. After panicking and yelling at himself for a moment, he grabs Mia, throws her into the car, and speeds over to his dealer friend's house.
What the hell was that?
Have you lost your fucking mind? You were talking about drug shit on a
Lance, help me.
Look,
Come on,
you're
Lance,
calling
help
my
me.
fucking
Grab her
house!
feet.
Hey, are you deaf? You are not bringing
Lance,
this fucked up
grab her
bitch into
feet.
my house!
It's this fucked up bitch is Marcellus Wallace's wife. Do you know who Marcellus Wallace is?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, if she croaks on me, I'm a fucking grease spot.
But the dealer has never dealt with anything like this either. In a panic, he starts flipping through medical books, trying to figure out how to save her. This is where Tarantino goes, full exaggeration mode. They grab a syringe and stab the adrenaline straight into her heart. In real medicine, this is pretty much impossible to pull off. Stabbing a needle straight into the heart is insanely dangerous. Mia jolts awake instantly, coming back from the dead. It's ridiculously over the top. The fifth segment is the story of the gold watch. The main character here is Butch, the same boxer who made the deal to throw the fight for Marcellus in the bar earlier. The segment opens by explaining that the gold watch originally belonged to his great-grandfather, then it was passed down to his grandfather, and eventually to his father. His father was captured during the Vietnam War. To keep the watch safe, his father hid it in his rectum and kept it there for 5 whole years. Before he died, he handed it to a fellow soldier, and that soldier kept it the same way for another 2 years. It's a watch with quite a distinct smell of history, and for Butch, it means more than anything. Tarantino just loves using these absurd moments to push the story forward. In the fight, Butch ends up killing his opponent in the ring. He wins the match, and thanks to his friend placing bets on him, he also cashes in on his own victory. He scores on both sides and makes a ton of money.
The fuck I tell you? Huh? As soon as the word got out, the fixtures in, man, the eyes went through the roof. I know, unbelievable. Hey, fuck him, Scotty. If he was a better boxer, he'd still be alive. If he never laced up his gloves, which he never should have done in the first fucking place, he'd still be alive.
Marcellus finds out and blows up in anger. He puts the word out all over town to hunt Butch down. Butch heads back to the motel, reunites with his girlfriend, and they plan to skip town in the morning. But the next morning, he realizes she forgot to take the gold watch. After a round of furious cursing, Butch has no choice but to risk it and go back to the apartment to get it. Luckily, everything goes smoothly. Butch grabs the gold watch and, instead of leaving right away, he somehow ends up wandering into the kitchen to make himself some toast. That's when he notices there's a submachine gun sitting on the table. The moment he picks up the gun, he hears the toilet flush in the next room. Vincent gets taken out. Tarantino always knows how to hit the audience with something unexpected. Here, the camera cuts to a shot of Modesty Blaise lying on the floor. It's a piece of Pulp Fiction, a nice little nod to the film's title. And really, who told him to go to the bathroom again? Earlier, we mentioned that every time Vincent goes into a bathroom, something bad is guaranteed to happen. Butch hops back into the car feeling all proud of himself. He turns on the music and starts daydreaming about the wonderful life he's about to have with his girlfriend. But things aren't over yet. And of course, just when you think nothing else will happen, something does. While waiting at a red light, he runs right into Marcellus, walking across the crosswalk with his breakfast. After the two regained consciousness, Marcellus chases Butch into a small grocery store and they end up wrestling on the floor. But when two parties fight, a third one benefits. The grocery store owner knocks both of them out. They're tied up and dragged into the basement. This part is the most outrageous section in the entire movie. The level of twisted insanity on screen is downright jaw-dropping. They never expect what will happen is the most absurd thing they'll ever go through in their entire lives. The owner of the grocery store was actually a pedophile. He called his playmate over, and together they start picking which one they want to torture. Marcellus is the unlucky one. While they're busy having fun in the back room, Butch manages to break free from the ropes and escapes the basement. After a moment of serious inner struggle, he decides to go back and rescue Marcellus. He grabs a samurai sword from the grocery store. Here, you can really see how deep Tarantino's love for samurai culture runs. In American pop culture, a samurai sword often symbolizes a kind of personal redemption. Butch saved Marcellus. Their grudges are wiped clean just like that. Right after, Butch heads back to the motel, picks up his girlfriend, and the two take off for good. And they start living a wild, carefree life together. The sixth segment is titled The Bonnie Situation, but Bonnie only appears once and only from the back. Tarantino jumps the timeline again, taking us back to the second segment. The camera switches to the henchman hiding in the bathroom. Right after Jules and Vincent take out the traitors, the henchman bursts out of the bathroom, pulls his gun, and fires wildly. The crazy thing is, he doesn't hit a single shot. Jules believes it's a miracle from God, but Vincent doesn't buy it at all. They take the undercover guy and leave the scene. In the car, they start rambling again about the crazy thing that just happened. And right then, another ridiculous moment hits them. Vincent's gun suddenly goes off by accident and blows the undercover guy's head open. Blood splatters all over the inside of the car. They have no choice but to drive around with the dead body and head to Jules' friend Jimmy's place to deal with the mess. And Jimmy is played by none other than Tarantino himself. His wife is Bonnie, and Jimmy is completely terrified of her. The definition of a guy who's scared of his wife. They have to get everything cleaned up. Before Bonnie gets home from work, Marcellus sends over a fixer, the Wolf, to help them out. The Wolf is calm, sharp, and experienced. He sizes up the situation and gets it handled in no time. Jules and Vincent change into Jimmy's t-shirts and shorts. After running around all morning, Vincent's starving, so they grab a ride and head to a diner. This diner is the same place where the couple from the beginning was about to pull a robbery. Only this time, we're seeing it from Jules and Vincent's point of view. Earlier, we mentioned how Pumpkin suddenly shouted, "Garson, coffee!" Tarantino uses that moment to clearly connect the two storylines, bringing the whole narrative into a perfect full circle. As expected, Vincent heads to the bathroom again. From the chronological timeline, this is actually the first time he goes to the bathroom. The robbery kicks off. Earlier, we also mentioned Honey Bunny saying that nobody in a place like this would ever try to play hero. But she ends up running into a professional hitman instead. Very bad luck. When Pumpkin tries to rob Jules, Jules grabs him in an instant. Having just witnessed what he believes was a miracle, Jules recites the Bible passage once again. He manages to talk the couple down and ends up letting them go. Jules and Vincent walk out of the diner like a pair of heroes. And that's where the film comes to an end. This film is one of the most influential works in modern cinema. Tarantino mixes a whole range of unconventional techniques, including a non-linear narrative, highly stylized dialogue, aka the signature Tarantino chatter, and a blend of dark humor and violence, completely overturning the standard storytelling approach of mainstream films at the time. It inspired countless imitators, but even today, no one has managed to fully recreate its charm. On the surface, Pulp Fiction is a story filled with blood, violence, drugs, and gangsters. But if you look deeper, it's not a film that glorifies crime at all. Instead, through all the pulp and all the twists, it digs into themes like awakening, choice, redemption, fate, and faith. And we can see all of this through the inner changes of several key characters. Jules starts out as a cold-blooded hitman The kind who likes to recite Ezekiel 25-17 before killing someone, using it to put on this fake aura of religious authority, but after surviving a hail of bullets without a single scratch, he feels it's a miracle and starts thinking about what that passage actually means. He has an awakening. He says it wasn't luck, it was God stepping in. When you witness a miracle, you're supposed to change. Jules becomes the symbol of someone who finally wakes up. He stops answering violence with more violence and starts looking inward, questioning fate, morality, and what his life actually means. He steps out of the cycle of killing and revenge. Vincent and Jules are partners, but in that same miraculous moment, he refuses to believe it's a miracle. He stays in the gangster life, lost in drugs and empty distractions. Those who refuse to wake up always end up swallowed by their own karma. He represents the stubborn ones, the people who refuse to wake up, and in the end he gets taken out by the very consequences he chose to ignore. While Butch is on the run and actually has a chance to leave the gangster world behind, he turns back after hearing that Marcellus is being assaulted. He chooses to save him. Even though Marcellus is someone who literally wanted him dead, that moment of compassion in a critical situation is enough to rewrite his fate. Butch chooses to do the right thing, and in doing so he completely breaks free from the cycle of being hunted and killed. At the end of the diner scene, Jules points his gun at Pumpkin, but he doesn't pull the trigger. Instead, he gives him a speech full of Zen-like clarity. I used to think I was the righteous man, but really, I was the evil one. Now I'm trying to be a better person. He chooses to let the couple go, even giving them money and a chance to walk away. It's the clearest example of laying down the blade and reaching enlightenment on the spot. This concludes our Pulp Fiction commentary. Please like, comment and share. Your one-click subscription is the last source of sanity for our editors. See you next time.